All right. Well, super excited for this one. I don't know what episode it is, but Coffee with Coleman again. And I got a guest here. I think we're keeping it true to the name. Jesse Hudson just told me, and I'm going to introduce Jesse here in a second, but he said, Coleman, if you would have just kept it like, bourbon with Coleman, we could have stayed true to having a glass of bourbon with Coleman. But here we are, keeping it PG, I guess. But Jesse Hudson, welcome to the show. Let's learn a little bit about Jesse, and what you're doing now, and just for the audience here, kind of talk to them about who you are and what you do.
Well, thanks for inviting me onto this. It's always fun hanging out with you and chatting with you. Uh, anyway, so um, I'm Jesse Hudson, Vice President of Lifetime Solutions. RainSoft water treatment is the core of what we do. We offer some other services as well within the home upgrade space: water filtration, air filtration. Um, Standby generators, water heaters. But our whole business started with RainSoft. My parents started the company back in 1989. I grew up in it and like literally grew up in it. It was the kitchen table on Elm Street in Barstow, where as a family we named the company. In those days it was the Water Doctor. It was a sole proprietorship for my parents, and Water Doctor was the name that we were all excited about. And so as we expanded and incorporated, we became Lifetime Solutions over the years. I worked my first home show when I was 9 years old. Some of that privilege of being a family-owned business, right? Free labor. Uh, was door knocking and doing mail pieces at 12 years old. That's how I spent like my weekends and holidays earning money through junior high, working at the office in the warehouse through high school, worked in the warehouse. And then once I was able to get that signed off my junior year for that ROP, I was able to leave school early and working with the service department. I became a service technician right out of high school, and then went into sales after that. And then we had branched out and opened up an office in the Midwest out in the Quad Cities in Davenport, Iowa. I moved out there when I was 21 years old, was going to run the service department, did run the service department, and then it just expanded from there. As we needed a sales manager, I had sales, the background. I thought, well, I can do that. And so it almost became its mini version of a startup for me, to where I was, involved in every end of it in my early 20s, going in and unlocking the shop and getting things ready for service and install, calling in the financing paperwork, faxing it over, back in those days, and then doing a sales training. And that was where I cut my teeth on that level of responsibility, where I'm leaving a sales training, and I'm showing up at a customer's house who has an emergency service call because I'm the only guy available. So I'm in a tie with a toolbox, knocking on the door and taking care of their equipment, and then running right back to the office to get right back into sales training. And so did that for a couple of years. I'll be honest, that was overwhelming level of responsibility in my early 20s, where you're everything from the early morning to being the guy on hand for emergency. Do you have the emergency phone line coming back to you in the middle of the night? So I had to monitor my drinking, all those kind of things. Nothing a young 20-year-old, 22, 23-year-old wants to be doing. So it was a lot, and we grew it. I learned a lot of things there, and then as we began to tread, we tightened up the business, and I came back to California and took over marketing, and then ran all of our marketing efforts for about 14 years, as we then transitioned to where my dad began to kind of back off the scene, and I transitioned into running the organization.
So when did you obviously like foundationally grew up in the business, right? Started at 9, went through service and marketing and sales, and now you're running the show here. Like, when did you first realize like, you had this knack for leadership, right? Because this entire show and really how I want to give back to our audience is based around three principles: sales, leadership, and operational mastery. And I want to get into some of that in the nuts and bolts today. But like, when did you realize, like, hey, I can actually lead this organization myself?
So my when I realized I had, I'm going to say a gift for leadership. I know that it can be trained, but I think as humans we all have different strengths, and I recognized that strength my sixth grade year in my social studies class, and we did this project.
Yeah, I can't wait for this one. Let's go.
And actually, side note, that was probably one of my favorite classes of my entire school career, elementary through high school. Like Mr. Hunsker, language arts and social studies. We always had these little projects. And so, two things. That was when I started to realize that I really loved projects
Yeah.
and I had a gift for leadership. And we had this project where the classroom was divided into two groups. And as a group of 18 kids,
Yeah.
uh, we had to create our own ancient civilization.
Okay.
And then it turned into this thing where we needed artifacts and we needed our own language. Like it was a really involved project. And then the end of the project was going to be we went and buried everything, and then the group swapped, and then you go dig up the other group's artifacts and you try and figure out everything you can about their culture.
Wow.
And I wasn't picked as the leader of our group. And I thought, okay, well, whatever. Anthony's the leader. That's fine. And Anthony was not leading. And I mean, it was total chaos and he didn't care. And I was getting really frustrated because I was pretty excited about this project. And so every time I'd start to initiate us doing something, um, there was the assistant teacher who was overseeing our group. They're like, "Hold on, Jesse, you're not the leader." Um, and I'm like, "Well, I don't. Someone needs to be the leader. Clearly, Anthony's not. He's leading
Anthony's
by
getting it
title,
done.
and he's not getting anything done here. Now, my grade is dependent on what Anthony is not doing right now, and that's a
Right.
problem for me. I'm going to have a meltdown." So I went and got with Mr. Hunsker. I said, "Mr. Hunsker, Anthony is not leading this group well. We need a new leader. We can put it to a vote. We can do whatever we want, but we need a new leader because I'm not taking a bad grade on this project."
So then Jesse's the shoe in as the
So
leader.
Jesse's now the leader.
Uh,
I did get voted in. I didn't say I want to be the leader. The group agreed we need a new leader, and we voted on me. And I had so much fun. Just it just felt natural for me. I'm like, okay, you three, you're working on this. You guys are working on artifacts. You guys are working on our alphabet, and it just felt like a natural flow.
It's interesting you say, I think I would agree. Like, leadership can be taught, but leadership's a dance in many scenarios. And, typically as a leader, and I say this often inside of our organization, my phone never rings, my email never has good news in it, right? I mean, it does. I shouldn't
Right.
tell it as that, but typically as a leader, you got to figure out how to dance around problems. And it takes a unique individual to do that. So, when did you first realize though, like, leadership is about changing lives and not about just hitting goals? So for instance, like just getting a good grade on a project, but it was about how do I change everybody's experience maybe in that one project? And what are you doing today to change the lives inside of the business of Lifetime?
I love that question, first of all.
There
Um,
you go.
that has been an evolved process for me. So,
Mhm.
like to your point there, back then, that was complete selfish motives. I'm not taking a bad grade for your lack of work, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the steering wheel on this thing. and even in work, so many times that was um, the driving force. Um, Not to get overly spiritual on it, but something through just prayer and Bible study and seeing Jesus's style of leadership, washing his disciples' feet, and a growing learning process for myself, recognizing that um, leadership is about serving my people. It's the circle of life, right? Within an organization, um, the team is serving the customers, and I am serving the team. And then as the organization grows, the team is serving the customer, their leader is serving them, and then I'm serving their leader. And so like I said, it was just kind of an evolved growing process for me. And then, but that's also what kind of drives my excitement and enthusiasm too. So it's a little bit selfish. I remember back from sales meetings of old, I'd hear Zig Ziglar quotes, and one of his big quotes was, "If you help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want." So even helping others to a certain extent has selfish ambitions attached to it, but I always identified that as if I help enough people get clean water, I'll get what I want. And one day it was kind of like an epiphany, where I'm going, wait a second, I don't actually help anybody get clean water. I'm not setting the appointment. I'm not going and closing the deal. I'm not showing up and doing the install. I don't help people get clean water. I don't help people get a new water heater. I help my team who does those things. So really, if I help enough people get what they want, meaning if I help my leadership team get what they want out of life, I'm going to get what I want out of this business.
Yeah, that's so good. It jogged my memory when you were kind of walking through the spiritual side of that, and I appreciate you sharing that. Which, there's days in my life and leadership and running two organizations myself that, there's days that you just kind of feel like shit, and I've learned that whenever I feel that way, if I go help somebody who has it worse than me, or what I perceive maybe is worse than me, guess what happens in my world, right? My life instantly gets better. And so I think this leadership thing, it's more about serving the people that you lead, right? And when you do that and you truly do it from the bottom of your heart, right? Like everything comes back tenfold, man. And it's really, really cool to watch. You said one of your biggest drives is seeing people reach new levels. Like, where did that entire passion come from?
So that's I mean really that finds itself in what we were just talking about, right? If I help enough people get what they want. And so for me, the work of what I do can get really mundane and overwhelming, and sitting here and reading reports and looking at numbers or dealing with lawsuits, or now I got to talk to this attorney about that because this wording wasn't the right one. Like that does not give me zest for life at all. I know some people get turned on by that. That's awesome. That's their gift. That's not my gift.
Right.
So, if I sit here for too long and stare at the numbers, life starts to feel real short. Um, and so when I was asking myself, even rolling into this position as my dad was segueing out, I had to do um, a gut check. Is this actually what I want to do? Because if it's not what I want to do, life's too short for that. So I can't say that I spent my life dreaming of being in-home services, and home upgrade sales. That's when you're a kid dreaming about what you're going to be in the future. That one never made the list. And
Right.
but it's a great job. It's a great opportunity. It's so for me, I had to ask myself, what is it about my work that makes me like it? Or with the fact that I'm free to be creative, how can we get creative with how we run this organization that has me excited to show up? Because if I'm spending Monday through Friday dreaming about Saturday and Sunday, that's a problem. We've got to reverse engineer that.
Right.
So, being able to help people makes me feel really good. And so um, helping people reach new levels. And the reason I say new levels is because it keeps it loose.
Mhm.
What's the new level they want to achieve? Hey, not everybody is ambitious to climb the ladder of title, right? I think we all want to climb the ladder of success in life, but we all have a different definition of what success looks like. And so I'm not here to define that for anybody. Somebody tells me, "Hey, I want to see what management opportunity within the company looks like." I love that. Let's sit down
Yeah.
and see what that looks like. Let's structure a roadmap. For some people, they want to earn more money, but they don't want to do it through title. And that's fine. Hey, great. Let's sit down. Let's figure that out. I'm not offended. I'm not offended by any question. I actually love it when people come in here into my office and they say, "Hey, I want to earn more money." Right on.
Yeah.
Let's figure out what that looks like. Now, I'm not just going to pay you more money for doing what you're doing. But
Right.
we can certainly create a roadmap that gets you making more money. And for me, um, I enjoy watching college football, and I like listening to the announcers and their commentary. And something that stuck with me, well, college football in general, something that blow. I mean, you could say it for all college sports, but there is something about a top 10 team that is consistently top 10, and their leadership is something that inspires me because I'll make excuses for myself for high turnover. Well, we're not hitting these performance levels because we have a high level of turnover. You want to talk high turnover? Talk about 11 games and that's it. You're
Yeah.
done. You've got your A-listers for 11 games, and now you've got a whole new team of A-listers that you got to do it with. And so, how are you continuing to groom and build and replace? Um, and so, I'm like, dude, I have no excuses. We have got to be able to groom and replace. But back to what that announcer said one day. He said, at the end of the day, you have your playbook, but you've got to be prepared in the moment to play with whatever strengths you have on the field. And I
Mhm.
was like, huh, that's huge. So we have our playbook and we have our go-to-market strategy, but any given day, I'm working with different strengths on my team. And so we try to stay nimble and flexible to call an audible on our playbook based on the chemistry of my team and the strengths they're bringing to the field. So I've got a gentleman right now. We had a talk yesterday afternoon. He's been with the team for a long time, and we're now having the retirement conversation. The fact that he's going to be able to retire with dignity is a big deal for me,
Yeah.
and that's I feel like that was a huge. I feel good about that, right? Because that's one of those opportunities I want to see for my people. Know that he's not going to be living off of Social Security when he exits Lifetime Solutions. But the way that we conversed about it, we're gonna I'm asking myself, is his position within the company something that I'm going to just simply move somebody else into? Or was that a position that we defined based on his unique abilities and talents and strengths, what he brought to the team, and we may just, transition into something totally different as he exits based on the strengths I'm working with. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I love that. I think, it kind of leads me into culture and core values. And I want to talk through that a little bit. I'm a big believer in the EOS model. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or not, but it's kind of what we built liquid soap products on, and how we fit people in the six components of that. When you talk about vision, which is your mission and your core values and what they actually mean to you. And so my first question is, in regards to your core values, do you guys reward around them, discipline around them, hire and fire based on your core values? Like if I ask you that question, yes or no answer, like, do you feel like your core values are so strong within your organization that you hire, fire, discipline, and reward around them?
yes.
Okay. So let's
Uh,
walk through that. Like you have five core values inside of Lifetime, right? What do you feel like the one that's like shaped you and the organization the most sitting in the seat that you're sitting in now?
so I remember rewriting those core values, the mission, the vision, and the core values. I was on a flight back from Florida,
Mhm.
and um, there was a guy. I was at a seminar, and the gentleman on stage said, "How many of you right now, if I called on you to share with me your mission statement, um, you can just stand up right now and share your mission statement?" I like couple hands went up in the room and I
Right.
felt so embarrassed. I was like, and so I'm like, okay, I am gonna memorize our mission statement. And then when I realized it was something that needed to be memorized and I was struggling with it, dude, there is no hope for our team. This is not a real mission statement, dude.
Right.
This is a thing in a book that
Yeah.
in a
Words
manual.
on paper, man. That's about it.
Nobody reads. Yep. So that gave me, so I sat down, I opened up my journal on the flight home and said, okay, really gotta work through this. It needs to be simple. But it needs to be real. And it was one of those like wadding up the paper, throwing it in the trash can until you got a trash can full of paper type exercises as we worked through that. So that's where I started was with the mission statement itself, which is improving the quality of life for everybody that we serve. It was everybody that we engage with. And I've gone back and forth on the wording of that. But really, in essence, and like I share with my team, it's the essence of the mission, not the wording of the mission. I need you to memorize the essence of the mission. We're here to improve the quality of life for people. It's what drives our services, it's what drives our products. But my telemarketing team, are they actually serving a household? Well, not necessarily. You're calling them on the phone and interrupting their day. So, as much as you're engaging with them, as much as you're serving them, I want you to improve their quality of life at some level. In other words, when they get off the phone with you, I want that to have been a nice conversation, not just something that interrupted their day and I want to, as best we can, I want us to make their experience and make their day better, not make their day more frustrated or worse or feel like just this rude interruption.
Yeah.
So that's how we carry that through. So with our core values, the five core values, starting with being positive, that's a big one for me. I reflect on that regularly, and with the team. We're making a choice there, right?
Yeah.
And with all of the core values, um, they're a compass. They're a guiding force. So that's why that was an easy answer. When we use it for hiring and disciplining and terminating and all of those things, I don't use it in a way where it's like based on this core value and based on that core value, but in the overall essence of the fact that it's a compass that guides our culture. I share with people very regularly. If you are not a culture fit, this is not the place for you, because we are driving to be a group of positive minded people. We're going to problem solve. And I'd say that all the time. We are lifetime, we're not lifetime problems, we're lifetime
Right.
solutions.
I love it.
We're here. If there wasn't a problem, none of us would have a job.
Yeah.
Every job is based on fixing something or
So
improving something. You have to have problems to have a job in the first place. So don't tell me about your problems. That's why I hired you.
yeah.
That's why
So
you're a part of this team. We're here fixing them. That's all we're doing. So if you're gonna just come tell me about your problems, then you're not the guy. Um, the one that I reflect on the most is number three, which is um, put others first. And I went to change the wording on that, and the leadership team wouldn't let me. They were like, "No, we like the way that's worded," and that goes back to that idea of serving others. It's fundamental in how I strive to lead and how the team strives to lead. But if I was to reword that for myself, so we have down our hallway, we have all of our core values on the wall so that from the moment you walk in the front door, you see them and you're seeing them all the way down your walk to whatever office you're going to go into. And so put others first is the one that always strikes me the most. And I can look at that in a way of build others up,
hmm
is how that most often translates for me. But in terms of our team, each of us, we talked about being that circle of life within the organization. Every position, every department exists as a handoff to the next department or to the next team member. And really, the essence of that is that's the team member, that's the department, that's the others I want you thinking about that you're putting first as you're making your daily decisions, as you're having that interaction with a customer, as you're handling that piece of paperwork. Keep in mind the next team member. Keep in mind that other department. Put them ahead of yourself. You
Yeah.
know, don't be lazy and do a terrible baton handoff.
Yeah.
Uh, do a good handoff, just like you want somebody doing a good handoff for you.
You said something that just sat with me, which was the essence behind the core value. And, I oftentimes say like the why behind the words, right? It's not words on paper, it's just the why behind the words. But a lot of people ask me, like, well, what's your why behind the words? And I'm like, my why behind the words might be different than your why behind the words, but it's the essence of the words that are on the paper. So I appreciate you sharing that. I want to get into sales for a second because this really like my love of life is in sales. I started there, cut my teeth there. I walked into your Victorville office back in November, I believe, and I had a new guy with me by the name of Nick. Nick has continued to make it. I think I get often texts from the Hudson clan about how amazing Nick is. But
Nick's a stud.
yeah,
Nick, if you're out there, you're a stud, buddy.
but I want you to tell this is like I'm gonna have to pay a lot of money for this to go away, I feel like. But anyways, you guys, you walked into a room and one of the exercises, and I've seen this done several times, not just from your group, but I was, first time I visited you, you and I didn't have a really good relate. I mean, not we had a bad relationship, we just didn't have a really relationship yet. And I walked in there, and Leonard, your sales manager, was in there, and all your sales team was coming in there, and you did this IM experience. Can we walk the listeners through this IM experience, and where did that come from, and why do you guys do it? Like Nick, this is the best story ever. So Jesse comes in, he does this IM experience. He's going to take you guys through this in a second. And Nick is so gassed up, right? Like he like literally heart beating out of his chest. He's going, and I introduced Nick to your entire group, and Nick goes, in this room, I see a lot of winners and I see a lot of, and he just paused for a second. I thought he was going to say losers, right? And I was like, dude, where's this guy going? Like he's only been with me for a month. Like, come on, dude, let's not follow him. And he goes, and I just see a lot of freaking winners. And he is a million mile an hour because Jesse just went through this IM experience. I don't even know if it was like an out of body experience for him. It's one of the things him and I talk about all the time. because he was like, you were probably looking at me like, oh my gosh, what's this guy about to say? But anyways, take these guys through this IM experience and why do you do it?
So every sales meeting we kick off with a pump up.
Yep.
And so that's Tony Robbins talks a lot about our physiology, our attitude, our energy affects our physiology, and we can backfeed that. Our physiology will in turn affect our mindset, our attitude. So, if we're stressed out or if we're worried, we're breathing in a certain way versus when we're confident and excited, we're postured and breathing in a completely different way. So we posture ourselves for confidence, for upbeat, good energy. And so each of the leaders have their own mantra. You can go in there and get the team fired up, but we get on our feet, get up, stretch, take ownership of your space and now we're gonna get real loud for a minute because it brings that same energy as when you're cheering for your team when the home team scores and you're on your feet, you're yelling. It's that same energy. So let's get the heart pumping and the blood flowing and the lungs expanding. So um, for me, all of our core values, everything is about what can you take ownership of. Uh, there's a lot of uncontrollable variables in life. So the question of what can I control? And so that fresh reminder that regardless of how your day is going, regardless of how that last sales appointment went or whether you even got in or whether they were qualified or in the world of sales there are a lot of challenges and the emotions of what you go through being an in-home salesperson when you're first of all when you're commission only that puts a real knot in your gut
Mhm.
on Monday morning that, okay, we're back to square one. Am I going to have a paycheck this week? And unless you've been in that world, you don't understand. People can't relate unless they've been in sales that's commission only. And now you're putting gas in your gas tank. And in California, that's $7 a gallon right now. And
Yeah.
I could be dispatched anywhere within a 70-mile radius. And from there, now it's up to me.
Mhm.
And that puts a lot of pressure on you, and you're dealing with traffic and you're dealing with all the other regular stuff of life too. So I'm referencing that when I'm saying, regardless of how your day is playing out, there are three things you always have control over. We have control of our attitude, we have control of our effort, and we have control of our focus. And you need to own that. No matter what's playing out in the day, no matter who you want to point a finger at, you can only point a finger at yourself for those three things. So I'm going to ask you who is in control of your attitude, and you are going to with match my energy and say, I am. And I'm going to say, who is in control of your effort? And you're going to say, I am. And I'm going to ask, who is in control of your focus? And you're going to say, I am. And so we just repetitively, I start yelling those questions out at the top of my lungs, and the crowd is yelling back, I am at the top of their lungs. And we just start rallying until everybody's out of breath and out of voice and you're friggin' juiced up.
Yeah, I love it,
So
man. It's interesting that you take about, as a parent, I'm sure you experienced this too. The three things that you just spoke of are the same three things that we talk about in the household too, right? And um, it goes for so many different areas of life. It's funny you say about this commission only thing that the clock strikes zero every Monday morning. And if you control those three things, the fruit at the end of the week is achievable. And I'm glad you shared that because I think a lot of people can take it. If you guys haven't seen Jesse's when he does this, I mean, it is literally it's a gassed up environment, and there's a ton of energy that's coming out. It goes back to this Nick story I shared with you a few moments ago. It really, really does kind of make the hair on your neck stand up. So I appreciate you sharing that. I want to get into rapid fire questions, and first of all, I just want to say thank you because from the leadership mastery side of this, somebody that sits in your seat, it's not always easy. But how you lift others up, how you stay positive, how you get your sales team gassed up, how you hand things off to make sure that you're taking care of the next person in line when it comes to a handoff in regards to installation or sales or the administrative team or finance team. All these things that you shared, there's so many guiding principles that I believe that many organizations can take and they can put into practice. And um, you know, the stuff that you learned isn't, or the stuff that we're talking about today is not something new. It's
Right.
it's something that's shared with us a lot. Uh, where do you feel like before we get into rapid fire, I got one last question. Like, where do you continue to build your skills as a good leader? How do you do that?
Um, I continue to read books.
Yeah.
Audio books are a big one for me. Even the old classics, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is what I'm going through right now on my drives. I've got a couple more books lined up that I'm excited about. And then surrounding myself with other leaders that I admire. So a lot of the things I'm talking about right now are things that I've compiled in my life as I talk about evolving from other guys who have poured in to my life. And and so I try to hang out with other business leaders who are kind of setting the example of what I strive for, right? The proof is in the pudding. So if I'm not seeing the results, that's not a person I'm going to try and glean from. But when everywhere I see the results, I'm like, can I be your friend? You know?
Well, proximity matters, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely it does.
Absolutely. So I wear a shirt. We've kind of tagged the coin anyway dollars. We've trademarked it over the years. Like, what does anyway dollars mean to you? And this is a selfish question, as you can imagine. But what's anyway dollars mean to you, and how's it helped your organization?
Um, Anyway, dollars is basically the money that a customer can use to the name any way they want to use it, you know. It's money that we've created for them. It's almost like budget money for me. And so use um, through the partnership between our customers and liquid soaps, they're going to be able to use money they were using at stores, and they're going to be able to use that money to fit within their budget and for basically the water system investment. We're taking money they were already spending and we're converting it into anyway dollars to be able to use. So we've created space within their budget to get a home upgrade and not actually spend more money.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. We say we don't, our goal and passion in life is never to create a new payment for a homeowner. And if we can do that, we've, implemented our system well. What's the most important to you when you talk about the mastery thing? I started off this conversation about sales mastery, operational mastery, and leadership mastery. If you had to pick one of them, what's most important to you in the organization? Just to you, from your lens, like if you had to hang your hat on one thing that you would spend the most amount of your time pouring into, would it be leadership, sales, or operations? Loaded
That's
question.
where it gets philosophical
Yeah,
because
here we go.
because every, everything is sales.
Mhm.
Everything is sales. By that, I mean the fundamental of what sales is. Sales is a transaction, and there's every interaction. is transactional. So the transaction of money is what we think of. We think of product and money when we talk sales. But what we're really saying is that there's a transaction happening. I'm giving you money, you're giving me product. But before that had to happen, a person had to be sold. There had to be a transaction of belief. And so I'm taking what I believe in and I'm now transacting with you. I'm transacting when it comes to energy. So I would have to say sales because even leadership is sold. If you're not sold on me as your leader, I'm not your leader. So operationally, unless the team is sold on what and why the operation does what it does, there is no operation. So fundamentally, it's always going to be sales. We have to be working on our salesmanship and our ability to communicate and transfer belief.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Listen, Jesse Hudson, I appreciate your time. I'm super grateful for the relationship that we built over the last year. I came into this business not knowing what to expect. You know, Mr. Singer was a part of the organization for many years, and then Doug Glasscock, obviously the CEO and owner now, had some really, really great things to say about the Hudson clan. And while I may not be your favorite liquid soaper, and I understand. And to the point in which I get an email, I got a text message. I don't know how this happened, but Greg Hudson texted me the other day with Nick involved and says, Nick's a badass or Nick's an awesome dude or whatever he said. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I have Greg Hudson texting me.
Well,
So,
I'll tell you. Well, we don't have to get into the story of how it all started, but we were working on this new project for Anyway dollars, where we're taking it to a whole new level for our customers, and I told Nick, I'm like, dude, I need this fast, and I had an email in my box at 4 a.m. and you did the math on that. I'm like, that's 2 a.m. for Nick. I'm like,
uh,
he took that serious. I'm like, that's a stud right there. When he's making it happen at 2 a.m. for me, I really appreciate that. So, and
I
both of you guys are a blast. So,
Well, hey,
um,
I look forward to it. I know we're going to spend some time together this summer. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for jumping on as a guest. I hope that the audience finds some value in what we spoke about today. It'll launch sometime in the future here. You know, I'll get you a copy of it, but
cool.
thank you so much for your time. I appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Good seeing you.
Bye bye. Appreciate you.